Hello. So, welcome to East Stroudsburg United Methodist Church Faith Conversations podcast, where we talk about faith and how faith influences our lives. And our guest today is Peggy Strack, and she's also going to share about her faith and other topics as well. Welcome, Peggy Strack.
Well, thank you very much. It's a joy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. We're so glad to have you. So, have you always lived in the Poconos?
No, I actually, most of my life lived in eastern Pennsylvania down in Schuylkill County. What brought us here was basically my husband's job, Rich's job. When we first got married, I had just graduated from college and he was in graduate school. And then he, while he was in graduate school, decided to sort of change directions and decided to become a physician assistant. So that took us to where he went to school. And then when he was finished and looking for a job, it just so happens, the way God works, it just so happens that one of the students in his physician assistant class had been a registered nurse up at Pocono Medical Center. And so she contacted, now that she was a physician assistant, she contacted some of the doctors that she had worked with as a nurse to see if they were looking to hire a physician assistant. And yes, indeed, the one group was. And so she was going to take that job. And then in the meantime, she and her husband decided to move to California. So she said, well, Rich, why don't you apply? So Rich applied, got the job, and that's what brought us to the Poconos.
Wow, that's quite a story. Yeah, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So, I mean, have you liked living here in the Poconos?
Oh, yes, very much so. Yeah, it's a good fit.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So, how is it that you ended up here at East Stroudsburg United Methodist Church?
Well, we church shopped for a while. We were not looking for any particular denomination. We were just looking for the church that felt like that's where God wanted us to be. And we attended lots of different churches. And the one day I happened to go, there used to be a Bible bookstore on Main Street in Stroudsburg. And I went into that Bible bookstore, and the owner of the store, we got talking, and he said about how he mentioned this church in connection with the Blue Mountain Christian Retreat, that they had just gone there and had a retreat. Well, I grew up 10 minutes away from Blue Mountain Christian Retreat. My parents used to go there. They let the local people come. And so I thought, whoa. And they got good speakers in there. And I thought, well, if this church went to Blue Mountain, that sounds pretty good. We better check out this church. So we came, went to the 11 o'clock service, and the people were friendly. We thought, well, next week we'll come back and we'll try Sunday school. So we came and went to Jack Wally's Faith and Fellowship Sunday school class for the young adults, young couples. It actually was couples in 20s up to through 40s. And basically, we've been here ever since.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's wonderful. So about work, you had stated that your husband, Rich, was a certified physician's assistant. And how about, did you have a career yourself?
Well, I'm at this point, retired registered nurse. But I did bedside nursing for 28 years in various settings, mostly up at the hospital, but also outpatient surgery center. And after 28 years, I was just feeling like been there, done that, and started praying, Lord, I don't know what you have for me now, but I'm ready. And all of a sudden, I started hearing of something I had never heard of before. We were here playing volleyball in what is now the Fellowship Hall, and a former pastor's daughter, who was a college student, was talking to me, and I said, I'm just ready for a change. And she looks at me and she goes, you should be a parish nurse. I had never heard of a parish nurse. And a parish nurse, they're now called faith-based nurses, are registered nurses who utilize their nursing background in the life of their congregation.
Okay.
When you know, Ed Kimes was the senior pastor here at the time. Shortly thereafter, he said, the Clergy Association is having faith-based nurse come be their speaker. Why don't you come with me? Now, he didn't even know that I was, so I'd never heard of this. And all of a sudden, see how God works.
Yes.
So I went, and it worked right along with the fact that the retired pastor who used to do all our visitation here, Ray Porstra, no longer was able to do that because he needed to care for his wife. And so they needed someone. And Ed Kimes really encouraged me to, he said, well, if you're considering it, the conference has the local pastor's licensing school. I never went through all the way to become a licensed local pastor, but I did do all the training. And then I coupled that with a certification that I got to become a parish nurse. And the two of them together gave me the courage to come here and be the director of congregational care. And Ed Kimes, he just said, this is your basic job description. Whatever else you want to do, take it and run with it. And so that's what I did the last 14 years of my career. And I can say it was actually the most fulfilling, because when you're doing bedside nursing, you're mainly doing physical care with a little bit of emotional thrown in. But when I was working here, it was mainly spiritual and emotional care with a little bit of physical thrown in. So it was very rewarding. So
that sounds great.
Good job.
Great. All right. So now that leads us to how your faith actually influences your life as well. And that's actually the whole idea of our podcast, to try and drill into people's faith and how that influences their life in one way or another. So tell us about your journey of faith.
Well, I grew up down in Schuylkill County in the country. My family, we went to a little country church, and I always went to Sunday school and church and vacation Bible school and everything. And, I thought that's what you did. And when I'm not sure if I was 12 or 13, I was in that general neighborhood. One of my friends who went to another little country church right next door almost, they were taking a group of people to a movie theater nearby to see a movie put out by the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association. And she invited me to go along. So I went to that. And while I was watching that movie, I realized that even though I thought I was a good kid, because I didn't do anything bad, really, I was a pretty good kid. But even though I thought I was a good kid, I realized that really I was a sinner because I was leading life my own way. And it was a very emotional experience for me. At the end of the movie, they had an altar call at the front of the theater, and I went forward. And if you know me, I can be blubbery. And so I was very emotional, and there was a young woman there too, and she said, would you like to pray and ask Jesus into your heart? And I remember, I could barely get it out, and I remember saying, I think I've already done that. And I went home, and, I didn't say anything to any of the other people that were there in the group. My parents weren't with me. And I never said anything to anyone, but I knew something special had happened that day. But I didn't understand it. And I was on an emotional high, like I was like really, really flying high. And gradually you come back down to earth. And I didn't understand that. I didn't know what had happened. And then, so fast forward, years go by. I went to nursing school down in Philadelphia, and with some of the other girls in my dorm, we used to walk to 10th Presbyterian, where Dr. James Boyce was the pastor. He was a well-known pastor, and one Sunday he gave a very powerful message, and I remember going back to my dorm room and again, getting down on my knees and talking to the Lord, and again felt this wonderful feeling, but I didn't understand it. Fast forward. I'm a slow learner. Fast forward, and by then we were church shopping, and we were attending a different church, and we'd gone there for a period of time, and the pastor gave a series of sermons on the plan of salvation, because I wondered, am I a Christian or not? Like I thought, if I'm really a Christian, I should feel like this all the time. And I, came back to normal all the time. And then I realized, oh, I am a Christian. And that was sort of like the real turning point for me. Shortly thereafter is when we started coming here. And then I got involved in Sunday school class and Bible studies or whatever. And that final revelation of understanding the plan of salvation is what got me to start growing in my faith. And so that was sort of the journey.
It's been quite a journey. So I'm curious, what's the name of that little country church you were talking about?
Well, it was it was interesting. It was a combination back then of there was a Lutheran congregation and a Reformed that shared the same church building, and we were one of a charge of 4 churches. So there was a Lutheran pastor and a Reformed pastor, and they each preached at 2 of the churches each Sunday. And then the next Sunday they'd flip-flop, but everybody came every week. And so now it's just Lewis, now it's non-denominational.
Okay.
It's no longer either one. It's a non-denominational church in Lewistown Valley. Zion Lewistown Valley is the name of it.
Wonderful. Is that where you grew up?
Yes. Yep.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So how do you see God at work in your life?
Well, basically, all through my life, I've seen his guidance. After I invited him in, I can see that he protected me from a lot of things that maybe I would have made choices that wouldn't have been good, but because he was with me and because I knew from my church background right from wrong, I think it helped me to make better choices in life. Being a Christian never. Some people think, oh, if you give your life to Jesus and you're a Christian, then nothing bad's ever supposed to happen. That's not the case. We had, just in normal life, sometimes bad things happen. When Rich was still in school and we were in an apartment above a pizza place up in the Wilkes-Barre area, he went to King's College. There was a fire in the pizza place. Wow. And there was 3 apartments above it. We were one of them. No one was hurt or injured in any way. And of the 3 apartments, ours was the one with the least damage. Wow. The other 2 got totally burned out. We just had small amount of damage. But, I see God's hand of protection there. And, we lost, we have 2 boys that we love to death, and 2 grandsons too, but, we lost a baby in between that only lived 2 days. And then after that, I had a miscarriage, and my mom died at a young age. And, everybody has things that happen in their lives that you wish didn't happen. And yet, through it all, God was always there. And I still remember, this is a story I'm going to tell. Do I have time?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
I'm going to tell a story that really took my faith from here up to here. Growing up, my grandparents just lived walking distance, and I grew up in the country. I'm a country kid, and my pappy had a big field, and he and my grandma would be working out in the field, and they'd be yelling at each other and fussing all the time, and they were always scrapping, and I knew my grandmother had a relationship with the Lord, but I didn't know where Pappy was, and I'd heard some stories about him that weren't the greatest. So for quite a few years, I just was praying, Lord, and especially as they were getting older, don't let anything happen to either one of them until they can work out their differences and until we know that both of them are right with the Lord. So this is a long time ago, but my mother and Pappy got sick, and he was in the hospital, and he was sort of comatose for a little while. And the family, not me because I lived away, but the family that lived there, since they couldn't talk to Pappy, they'd take their Bibles and sit at his bedside and read to him. Well, after a while, when antibiotics and stuff are kicking in and he woke up, my mother was there and my grandmother was there. And Pappy asked Grammy to forgive him for how he'd been treated
Wow.
and how he had treated her, rather. And my mother led him to Christ. So at my grandfather's funeral, my faith went from here to here.
Wow.
Not so much for loss of my grandfather, because I wasn't that close to him, but for the realization of how God had answered my prayer.
Wow.
So that was a huge faith builder, And I would say how I see God working now is, our world that we live in now is pretty crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. But I
Tell me
think...
more about that.
But I think my trust in God has really grown. I don't always like things that I see or hear, but I don't worry about them. I really trust that God is in control of my life, as well as all things. We might not like everything that happened, but He allows it for some purpose. For some purpose. So that's
wonderful. That's wonderful. So, I mean, having known you, I know you're very dynamic in terms of making things happen and serving the Lord. So what are you passionate about in terms of your service to the Lord? And where does that come from?
Well, I do enjoy serving people.
Yeah.
My dad owned a restaurant down in the area where I grew up. And so as soon as I was old enough to get working papers, like in the summers and on weekends, I worked in my dad's restaurant as a waitress. So I served food to people. And then it's interesting how I always say I fell into nursing. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I went to a 4-year college. The first year I was undesignated natural sciences, didn't know what I wanted to do.
Mm.
And during that time I got tonsillitis freshman year twice.
Wow.
That I was so sick that I was in the infirmary for a week. And the doctor at the college said, "You've got to get your tonsils out." So I went to see the doctor that was going to take my tonsils out, and he knew I was a college student. "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And I told him I just finished my first year. He said, "You should be a nurse." He said, Thomas, he was a graduate of Jefferson Medical College.
Mm.
He said, Thomas Jefferson has a brand new nursing program where you go to regular college of your choice for your freshman and sophomore years, and then you transfer into Jefferson your junior year, and you'll get your college degree in nursing. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I checked into it, and all the courses, again, how God works. Everything that I had taken my freshman year would transfer in. Okay. And then I figured out what I had to take my sophomore year to transfer in. And so that's how I became a nurse, was because I had to have my tonsils out. But, it was a great career for me because I always loved being a nurse. I enjoyed taking care of people, serving people. And it's just an area that God has called me to. And I've done it in different ways. And I'm happiest when I'm not just sitting home doing something, but when I'm actually out there interacting with people and serving them in whatever way God's calling me to serve.
That's
and
wonderful.
And He's called me to do some things I never would have expected.
That's great. That's great. Now, before we wrap up, if somebody's listening, and we distribute this podcast on our social media platforms. So you go on our church website, we have a playlist of all the guests that come on the show. And we always, it's like a signature question, but it's still for people who are listening or watching a clip and say, I was listening to Peggy. What kind of faith advice would you give them?
Well, I would say the most important, the decisions of your life are very important. And the most important decision that I made was not where to go to school, was not what career to pursue, was not who to marry. The most important decision that I ever made was inviting Jesus into my heart. And then it's important, after you do that, to not just sit back and think, okay, I'm secure now. I think God wants us to continue to grow in our relationship with Him. And I've found that being part of other groups is hugely important. Join a Bible study, join a small group, get involved in a ministry. When we're interacting with other people of faith, it's like iron sharpening iron. We help each other. I might be feeling down, and you share something that helps me, and vice versa. So I think it's really important not just to have the personal relationship with God through His Son Jesus, but also to get involved with the body of Christ. So that's very important, and I would really encourage people. And even if you're new to a church, whatever, don't be afraid, get involved. And also for the people who have been here forever, don't get comfortable and forget to invite those people to what you are involved in. We need to do that. And of course, we all need to nurture our faith through our own quiet times as well. And I'm feeling sort of convicted myself that I need to spend, for this year, more time in prayer. Not to say that I totally don't do it. I most certainly do. But I'm feeling like maybe God wants more time from me.
Well, thank you so much, Peggy Strack, for coming on ESUMC Faith Conversations podcast. We're really grateful for your time. And do you want to sign off with any last words before we close the door?
I'll just, for those of you who are struggling with the world situation now, way back, then this will be my final thing, my little final story. Back during COVID times, and there was also political stuff going on, and that was a really tough time. And the Lord brought to mind an old hymn, the words of an old hymn, and that became my mantra. My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but wholly lean on Jesus' name. On Christ the solid rock I stand. All other ground is sinking sand. All other ground is sinking sand. And now I better stop before I start crying.
Well, thanks again for coming on the show, Peggy Strack.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Sure.
Thank you for having me.
All right.